every single morning, he'll stand right behind me and say, "You're kidding me," because I always have my heater on. You're kidding me. I'm like, I'm just gonna have to move to a warmer state.
It'll warm up for you.
Yeah.
Today.
Just today, yeah.
And this weekend will be 66.
Yeah.
It just stays 70 year round and totally happy.
See,
75, I can give you
70, yes. Yeah. Oh, me too, definitely.
Then everybody in the world would be here, so.
Yeah.
Just gonna have the rain to keep everybody away.
It's a bummer though, because, with kids, I have 3, and, if the weather's really bad, they can't go outside and play or ride their bikes or do any outdoor stuff.
Oh, there's nothing to do.
There's nothing to do. And then they try to go for the iPads. No. Of course. I'm like, no.
Yeah, that's become the
Oh,
hey,
hey,
thing to
hey.
keep them happy.
Yeah, I
Voice
voiced
note, okay.
We're probably just gonna broadcast the Kiwanis one and
Oh, yeah.
the other one.
Sure.
I've got a wedding this weekend and there's a bunch of stuff going on, so we're probably not gonna do our own this time.
Yeah, no problem, because I've got a ton of them scheduled already.
And I just don't have time to go there else.
I hear you. All right, no problem.
Hello.
Hey, John.
How you doing?
Very good. Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
Let's see if we can figure our way through this.
Okay, okay.
So we're taking a survey, Alan, are you a hot weather person or not?
I like the hot weather,
You like
yeah,
hot weather?
yeah. Although I like this cold weather too. I like snow and I like sun, so that's all right. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
Very good. So, yeah, either or for me is good. Like snow skiing and I like getting out.
Do you have the knees for it?
Huh?
Do you have good knees?
Yep,
I can't.
yep. All my kids ski and we just kind of enjoy that. My son lives at the foothills of the Wasatch Mountains in Colorado, or in Utah, so, yeah.
Lucy, do you think that Augie's last name?
Yeah.
Would be QU.
And Augie, August or August?
August.
August. Just like the month.
Yeah.
August,
And
okay.
then QU.
QU.
EI. R. I think that's it. It's kind of
How do you pronounce that?
cray roll like crayon. Don't you think about the key?
Okay. Nice.
Lucy likes the cold weather too, by the way,
I
just,
love the cold weather.
Yeah, he's almost.
Look at this. And I'm still cold.
Yeah, I know exactly.
well, the nice thing is in here, it's really pretty nice.
Where?
In here,
In here?
yeah, yeah.
No.
Yeah, just
Back where my
saying.
heater is. It's really nice.
Well, I just,
Oh, yeah.
82 degrees today. I don't think you'll need the heater. Just saying.
Hey, Bill. The brain trust from the road department.
Yeah, we shut everything down.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about the last one. Stuff in the inside. Like Thursday. Yeah.
surgery.
Somebody's using public comment, if they have questions that they want to ask, they can't do that at this juncture, correct? This is just a comment period.
Right.
So if they have questions.
Well, they can ask the questions, but you guys just wouldn't answer.
Okay, so then how do we facilitate those, those then getting answers to your questions? Have them-
They could send them to you via email or
Okay.
mail it to you,
Or,
leave you a voicemail. I wouldn't suggest that one, but
okay, all right, that's, okay, that's what we do.
you signed, just signed the last one on my phone.
No, I've always done it by hand.
Yeah, I had two until now.
Huh.
Boy, is it convenient.
Now with the 6 acres, what do you get?
We'll call to order the Yamhill County Formal
Atta
Session
girl.
Board of Commissioners, April 7th, 2016. It's 10 o'clock. At this time, we have our flag salute. Chuck, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, ma'am. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. At this time, we have set aside for invocation. Commissioner Springer?
Thank you, Chair. It's my pleasure this morning to introduce a man that I've known for a number of years and highly respect in our community. Dr. Bard Marshall is here to do invocation for us this morning. But I'm going to do something different today. I'm going to turn the introduction over to Planning Director Mike Brandt to share a little bit. Come on forward, Mike, and introduce Dr. Marshall, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Springer. Yeah, I'm taking a break from my planning director's duties for a little bit, and I wanted to come over and personally introduce Pastor Bard Marshall. He's somebody that my wife Sue and I have known for several years, and I met him wholeheartedly about 12 or 13 years ago when we began hosting a Bible study in our home, and Pastor Bard led that. And a few years after that, we bought a beach house over in Lincoln City, and Pastor Bard ended up being the interim pastor for several years over at Faith Baptist Church in Lincoln City, and we got to know him there. And so we moved the McMinnville Bible Study over to Lincoln City Bible Study, and he led that for several years. And then, believe it or not, he turned the reins of that over to me a few years ago, and those poor people have to listen to me as their leader now instead of Pastor Bard. But he's a wonderful person that this community has got a lot from. He's a very spiritual man, and him and his wife June have added a lot to this community. And I just like to, I wanted to come over to tell him a few things and to acknowledge what a great guy he is and to welcome him. So with that, will you come on up, Pastor Bard?
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
I'm humbled by his remarks, and thank God for Mike and Sue. I also thank the Lord for the privilege of being here in McMinnville. I'm a native Oregonian born in Oregon City, and believe it or not, played in what was called the Tualatin Yamhill Valley League. And there were 8 schools. McMinnville was one of those schools, along with Oregon City. I had the privilege of starting my first varsity football game at McMinnville, playing against this team. I remember the score. It was 27-7, and I'm sorry to say that for you, Oregon City won. And
Are you sure? That doesn't seem right.
let me tell you, we played on a field over here that was as flat as the top of this table, and it was raining that night, probably 2 inches of rain, and when you hit, you slid for maybe 10 to 20 yards, and it was a great time. So we, and that was in 1951. 1981, I came to pastor Bethel Baptist Church and continued that ministry for 22 years. When I retired, I went over to help out in the church at Lincoln City, and that's where I met the Brandts. And what a blessing they've been to me. Let's just look to God in prayer at this time. Heavenly Father, we come to you through the name and merit of the Lord Jesus Christ, thanking you for the access we have to the very throne room of heaven. We thank you for this place in which we live and enjoy. We thank you for its lush green valleys and that moderate climate that we enjoy here. We thank you as well for those who settled this country in this area. And we thank you that you have your eye even on this area. Though it's small among the counties and Oregon's small among the nation, yet it is not too small for your notice and your concern. So we would pray that you will guide us and help us to be thankful for those who have gone before us, who've labored in this area, who tilled the soil, who started the industries, who founded this community and this county. We would ask that you will lead these who are responsible at this time Give them wisdom. Obviously, there's, because of different backgrounds and values, there's a difference of opinion. I pray that you'll give wisdom, and I pray that you'll give those of us who are the benefactors of these decisions the strength to give thanks for the sovereignty of God and trusting your leadership in this county, in this area. We would pray for those who would follow after. Pray that they as well may enter into the responsibilities with a consciousness that you are sovereign and over all. So thank you for these men and women. Thank you for these who come today to share. Give wisdom and discretion to each one and help us to respect each one, even as we gave the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. It's one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We thank you for that. As we pray it in Jesus' lovely name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you for coming. All right, at this time, we have a public comment period. This 30-minute time period is reserved for public comment on any topic other than a quasi-judicial land use matter or other topic scheduled for public hearing. Unless extended by the chair or majority of the board, public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Has everybody who wants to make a comment filled out a card, a sheet of paper of any color? Okay. All right, let's start with the first one is Ivory McLaughlin. Would you state your name and your address for the record, please, and have a seat? Thank you.
If we may, is it okay for both of us to come up together?
Sure.
Okay.
Come on up. And we have Ken Wright joining us. So, thank you.
236 George Carlton.
Ivory McLaughlin, 1235 Northwest Torres Pine Court, McMinnville. Sure. Like I said, I'm Ivory. I'm serving right now as the secretary for the Friends of Yamhill Westsider Trail Group, and this is my second year serving as the secretary, but have been involved with the trail for the past probably 5 to 6 years. And I've lived in the Yamhill and Carlton communities my whole life. So I wanted to speak briefly about the different public forums and meetings that we've had involving all of the community members. We have had an annual meeting for each year that the Friends of Yamhill Westsider Trail Group has been in effect. This annual meeting has been publicly promoted, and anybody is always welcome to attend these meetings. In addition to those annual meetings, within the past 2 years, we've had 7 public meetings. These 7 public meetings were held in the cities of Yamhill, 2 in Carlton, 2 in McMinnville, 1 in Gaston, and 1 in Cove Orchard. In addition to these 7 public meetings, we also had a 2-day design workshop that we called a charrette, where we were working with different stakeholders along the trail. We had about 80 people total in attendance, and these key stakeholders that we invited were from the farming community, the school district, different public officials, business owners, and private property owners along the trail. We made a conscious effort to invite people, private property owners, or anybody that was along the trail that had concerns, some pretty significant concerns on how it would affect them or their business, and we addressed those within that design workshop. At this design workshop, we had 6 professional landscape architects from the ASLA group that came to lead those sections of the trail. We divided up into 6 or 7 different geological sections of the trail and sorted all of those 80 different people into those sections that they were going to be most affected in working with. In addition to these 7 public meetings, we have a website and social media pages where we allow public comment at all times. So at any point, anybody who has a concern about the trail can get onto our website and write a message to the group, respond with as soon as we can. So just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of all these different public outreaches that we have had for the trail. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivory.
Thanks, Ivory. My comments would really be more specifically about concerns I've heard expressed publicly that I think should be addressed by our group, I guess. And we, in fact, there was as you guys know, there was a group of farming group that was here a couple of weeks ago at this session, expressing their concerns about the trail. Some of the concerns that are out there in the world include that farmers would be prohibited from their normal spraying practices in the fields. And what somehow seems to be getting missed is that farmers already are farming right up to roadways, everywhere, all over this county. And there is no restriction on those farmers, none. And there are bicyclists, there are runners, they're all over the roads, and there are no restrictions, never have been. You know, if you look around the United States at all of the trails, and I've looked into it deeply, there are no restrictions anywhere in the United States. And so I don't know where this concern is coming from, because nothing exists that like it. I understand that people worry about, their ability to farm, and I'm a farmer. I farm 200 acres. Believe me, I get it. And I would be concerned if I thought there was a precedent around this country for a restriction on my ability to farm, but there is none. So I think it's really important that the truth needs to be out there. We've actually reached out, our group has reached out to several of those farmers, and we're attempting to get all of those folks together with us to have a meeting here in a couple of weeks to talk about this openly, and to talk about what's real and what's not. So that's really my biggest concern is that there's a lot of hyperbole and fear out there that isn't addressed. Another thing we heard just this last week is that the federal government may have the ability to take land outside of the right-of-way for the purposes of this trail, which has never been a subject, ever in our discussions. And I don't know of it happening anywhere in this country, again, anywhere, ever, and I've looked. And certainly in our discussions for this trail, nothing that we have proposed, nothing exists outside of the right-of-way, of the Union Pacific right-of-way. There's no intention to do anything outside of it. And if anything, there is a great effort on our part to try and find a way to accommodate concerns of the neighboring landowners, to find any way through physical screening, through whatever it might be. I mean, a great example is the dairy that exists between Gun Club Road and Carlton. And the owner there has property on both sides of the trail. And on occasion, they move, the cows get moved from field to field, on rare occasion, but they do. And there was a concern about being able to do this if a trail existed. And part of our, in the charrette that Ivory was mentioning, we addressed that, and we agreed to create a gate system so that those cattle, those cows could continue to move freely from one side of the trail to the other. And this is what we are trying to do, to accommodate all concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Weiser? Could you state your name and your address for the record, please?
My name is John Weiser, 7680 Northeast Gun Club Road, Carlton. And my topic is rails to trails, whatever you want to call it. Unfortunately for us, there's a big parking lot designed to sit right at the end of my property, amongst 4 houses. I came to one of the meetings at the community center, voiced my concerns with the road and the traffic, number of accidents, and talked to Ken and his group, and they said they were interested, wanted to go look. Was told that the neighbor was possibly going to donate property to the north for a parking lot. After that meeting, I told them we don't get the paper. They said they'd send more flyers. We received nothing after that. Until just recently we found out that this big parking area is going to go right at the end of our property, with no conversation with us that anything was planned. I realize it's preliminary, but it would have been nice to have known what was going on. We bought the place because it was zoned 4080, no chance of development. City of McMinnville will never go out that way with urban development, got enough land elsewhere. All of us neighbors, none of us want a parking lot there. We're not necessarily against the trail, but it's an inappropriate place to cross a highway where there's that many wrecks. And it's also a bypass to skip the going clear to the cemetery to turn on the 47. We checked with our insurance company. Our liability insurance will go up by $600 a year if this goes in, because we have to raise our rates. I said if we have a couple claims against us, we could be canceled. No matter what they do to make this thing safe, you're still going to have people walk around. You can't stop that kind of stuff. We have animals. It's supposed to be a dog park. It's 450 feet long. You've got 9 parking spaces and 4 handicap spaces. And I see it's a total waste of money. That's not what a trailhead is in the rural area. The ones we looked up online are big parking lots with no homes, development, anything around them. Maybe there might be one somewhere that we missed, but the ones that we looked up, no homes. One homeowner down there is 5 feet from the trail. His house is literally 5 feet from the trail. Another one that looks right into his backyard. He's got young kids. There's, just an inappropriate place to put something. I realize it's preliminary. It could possibly be moved. That would be great. We had a biker killed on just down the road on 47 last year. Of course, we had the nasty head-on last night when people got killed out by Flat Road.
Time, Madam Chair.
Anyway, just the amount of crime. We had crime before with a vacant lot down at the end of the road. Just would like them to at least contact us so maybe we can do something, work something out, or at least involve us in this process because we have not been involved. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weiser.
Thank you.
Patricia Royer? Would you state your name and your address for the record, please?
Patricia Royer, 19105 Northeast Jacob Road, Newburgh.
Okay, go ahead.
On your website here, it says that Yamhill County adopted an amendment to add this trail to the Yamhill County TSP in December of 2012. The people who signed that were Leslie Lewis, Mary Stern, and Kathy George. And the amendment states Hag Lake to McMinnville Rail with Trail project. And I'm wondering, how did the width get taken out? Who took the rail with trail? If you had corporation, not a co-op that ran a railroad that brought in income from these tourists that come, that the rail part that paid for the trail, and the county wouldn't be on the hook for 10.27% of whatever money the government prints up, because it is funny money, and they have an endless supply. How did you get the 10.27%? That's basically a blank check written to put the county in debt. I just don't understand how you get from this thing that they signed, rail with trail, and they say it's to assist with the movement of goods in part, and it would also enhance economic development. The long-term goal of this project is to have a rail line along with the trail component. The Rail with Trail project will improve regional accessibility for business owners and allow the connection to other rail lines. This is part of Ordinance 880, which I'm assuming is what authorized this in the first place. However, the commissioners, on November 1, 2012, Oregon Wine Press published an article that says, in May, and this is 2012, before December, the commissioners unanimously agreed to provide the required 10.27% match, $246,480 for the Transportation Enhancement Grant. Who's making the rules? And who's going to be, is there any cap ever going to be put on 10.27% of what? Who knows how much it's going to cost? And how is it going to benefit the local residents, the taxpayers, who in the end pick up the tab?
Time, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mrs. Royer.
Thank you.
Brian Schmidt? Brian, good morning. Could you state your name and your address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Brian Schmidt, and did you say my address?
Yes, please.
7580 Northeast Hendricks Road, Carlton, Oregon.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Okay, so my name is Brian Schmidt, and I farm some hazelnuts right up along the railroad right-of-way, and that is what brings me here, and that is when I first heard about this project. I have attended 3 meetings held by the Yamhill group. I've also attended the charrette, and so I was part of all of that. And I still have many questions that have not been answered. I have brought them up, and I have asked. Some of them I've spoken with Ken, and I want to thank him for his attempt to try to help me understand. But I still have questions, and I'm going to pose what they are here. Okay, so the first thing is on the road for spraying. So I spray chemicals. Unfortunately, I have to use chemicals on my hazelnuts until we figure out a better way. And on one of the labels, it states that I am not permitted to spray this around recreational parks. And it's that phrase in particular that I think carries a legal consequence. And that is why I am here now. And so I want to know, is this going to be a recreational park? I've listened to people talk a long time about this, and they can't tell me, and I don't know how to find out the answer. I also have other concerns in learning about this project. I've been involved with seeing things in other trails around the country, and I have a stack of about 600 documented crimes in the last 15 years on exclusively bicycle trails. And we all know the one in there's a few in Portland, and one of them has been in the news from assault. I'd also like to bring to the attention that our Sheriff's Department, they do a wonderful work with a very low staff. And do you know how many staff members they have patrolling our county at any given time? It's very few, if you ask them, in proportion to the ground that they cover and compared to other counties. And this concerns me because there are over a dozen or 2 dozen homes right near the tracks, and this does not include Carlton or the towns. This is people in the country. And I'd also like to add that privacy in the country is not anything like privacy in the city. In the city, you hear your neighbors and you have sounds in people's cars when they hit the lock button, and then you hear their dogs barking, and that's part of it. In the country, you don't hear that stuff. And this cannot be solved by a 6-foot fence. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Mary Ann Nash?
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for having me. My name is Mary Ann Nash. I'm the Public Policy Counsel for the Oregon Farm Bureau located at 1320 Capitol Street Northeast in Salem. I am here today to take a little bit of a step back from some of the comments that you're hearing today regarding specific impacts of the trails on individual farmers. And step back and talk a little bit about what the right forum is for addressing these grievances and these concerns. The level of county review required by bike paths has been a subject of considerable discussion over the last few years, fueled by a project in Benton County that several of you may have heard of. As a result of those conversations, DLCD issued some clarification around land use approvals required for bike paths and indicated that they do require them to go through the 215-296 analysis, which is usually done through a conditional use review, and is designed to allow the county to specifically evaluate impacts on neighboring agricultural operations and either impose mitigation or deny a permit if mitigation cannot be sufficient to address the concerns such that the path wouldn't significantly increase the cost of farming operations or force a significant change in those operations. You hear a lot of talk, and you probably will continue as this project goes forward, with people wanting to compare bike paths to roads or to railroads and say, oh, it's transportation use, it's really not that different. As Brian's testimony indicated, it is quite different, and that's proven true everywhere that these projects have occurred. When you have bike paths, you're talking about pedestrians and you're talking about bicyclists, so individual people that are not being transported in either a train or in a car. So the potential for individual impacts is much greater. The potential for trespass resulting from those uses is much greater. And the potential for actual individual contact with particularly agricultural operations is greater. And it can change the uses significantly for people and change their liability and impose significant costs on them that can make it much more difficult for them to continue their agricultural operations. Some examples of this are that you may have to change spraying practices because of requirements of the pesticide labels. You may have to change where, when, and how you harvest because people will complain about dust impacts. How can you mitigate against dust impacts, against impacts if you're having to transport animals or machinery across the roadway? When those issues were raised through the conditional review process in Benton County, I think the county started to realize how complicated it is to try to find mitigation that would actually work and not have to cause the farmers to significantly change or alter their operations. And one of the issues was public safety that was brought up in the case, and the county eventually, I think, determined it didn't have sufficient resources to adequately patrol the new bike path areas and the amount of additional traffic and additional people that would be out in those rural areas recreating. We've also heard stories of when bike paths go through properties. People, they don't realize, and so they want to go play in the mint fields, they want to go play with the cows, they think that part of the experience is actually going out and interacting with the farmland, which can be very dangerous and cause significant liability concerns for people. There's a recent Oregon court case that made it even more difficult to limit liability, even in the context of public recreation. We're hoping that will be changed in the 2017 session, but right now that is existing law, and it is really difficult to avoid liability even for incidental recreational uses. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nash. Appreciate you coming. Appreciate you all coming, and your comments have been duly noted. Thank you. All right, next is our consent agenda, and would entertain a motion to approve item B, the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
All right, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously. Other business, old business C, we have none. Other business D1, which is a consideration of authorizing Public Works to add one additional full-time employee for a temporary full-time, non-benefited position effective immediately through June 30th, 2016. Motion to approve?
I would move that we approve this. We've got a significant amount of public work jobs that have been made possible by a reduction in the cost of paving materials this year. So John's going to need some additional help to make sure we get our entire list of improvement projects done. So I would move approval of this request.
All right, we have a motion to approve item D1. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approval of item D1, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Public hearings. At this time, we'll open a public hearing in the matter of proposed transfer of jurisdiction over segments of Northwest Hill Road and Northwest Baker Creek Road in or near the city of McMinnville to the city of McMinnville as requested by the city. Counselor?
Yes, Madam Chair. This is a procedure that is available under state statute to transfer the jurisdiction over county road segments that are in the city and or near the city. There are actually two processes. The ones that are in the city, we post a notice of this hearing, which was done on March 11th, And this was after we received a request from the Community Development Director of the city to transfer the jurisdiction. They would like to improve this road. We can also do that under an agreement, but this is just one way to do it. And we will turn all of the responsibility for construction and maintenance over to the city under this, and they would complete their improvements to Hill Road, to Baker Creek Road, out to Hill Road, and then Hill Road as well. So.
All right, do we have anyone from the city who wants to comment? No? Do we have a motion to approve, adopt the board order to transfer jurisdiction?
You don't have anybody that wants to testify?
Nobody here wants to testify? Okay.
There we had Bill Gilly show up,
Yeah.
the county engineer, in case you did have questions. So
Anybody have any?
looks pretty good.
Anybody have any? All right. Anybody have any questions for Bill?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. I move that the board tender a formal offer to the city of McMinnville to assume jurisdiction over the segments of Hill Road and Baker Creek Road specified in the notice of public hearing in this matter. Hill Road from 300 feet south of Northwest 2nd Street, north to Northwest Baker Creek Road, and Northwest Baker Creek Road from Northwest Michael Book Lane to 800 feet west of Northwest Hill Road.
All right, we have a motion to adopt a board order transferring the jurisdiction over segments of Northwest Hill Road and Northwest Baker Creek Road. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously. Any announcements?
Madam Chair, I would also point out for your announcements that there will be an intergovernmental agreement that we will have you consider after the city takes formal action to accept the jurisdiction. So.
Okay, and we'll close that public hearing. Any announcements?
Madam Chair, I don't have an announcement, but I do have something that happened. Al Westhoff out at the fair had submitted a request for advance funds for 5,000 in ATM funds and 800 in parking gate funds for this upcoming event they have. And I meant to send it to our Lucy, and I ended up sending it to the law library Lucy. So it didn't make the agenda this morning, but he really does need us to act, need you to act on approving or disapproving that advance cash so he can get that set up.
So we'll just turn that item D, I want to make that item D2.
Right.
Okay.
Madam Chair, as you may or may not be aware, we're having quite a large event coming up this weekend with it's an auction sale show of old farm equipment, stagecoach, buckboard, a variety of different things. This was a major event held in John Day over the last few years. It wasn't held last year, and this year is being moved to McMinnville. We're quite excited about the opportunity for our fair, but in the process of getting everything put together, Al neglected to get this request in so we would have change and have money in the ATM. So I would move approval of this request, and so Al can have it.
All right, we have a motion to approve item D2, which is to provide funds for the ATM and parking gate. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approval of item D2 say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Any announcements? Announcements? For information on County Advisory Committee vacancies, we ask that folks refer to the website or call the Board of Commissioners office. And for questions regarding accessibility to accommodation, please contact the Board of Commissioners office. All right, at that point, we will end the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners April 7th formal session. It's 10:35.
Thank you, Madam.